Crypto agility is a term we're hearing more often. What does it really mean? And why is it critical for your organization to achieve it before the coming quantum cryptographic apocalypse? We delve into all this with QuSecure, a company actually delivering post-quantum cryptography, on this episode of the Post-Quantum World. I'm your host, Konstantinos Karagiannis. I lead quantum computing services at Cryptography, where we're helping companies prepare for the benefits and threats of this exploding field. I hope you'll join each episode as we explore the technology and business impacts of this post-quantum era. Hi, we're lucky to have two people here today from QuSecure. So we have the co-founder and chief product officer, Rebecca Krauthamer, and the CTO and VP of engineering, which is Greg Bullard. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Looking forward to this. Thanks.
Yeah. So Rebecca, did you want to start us off with a little bit about QuSecure in general?
Sure. Yeah. So we're a tight group, and we started QuSecure several years ago, and it was really through this quantum journey. My background personally is in AI, and so I came into quantum via that route, kind of understanding that quantum is the next generation in technology, is going to push us forward to achieve some of these things that we could only dream of before. So we set out and we started this venture studio called Quantum Thought, and the idea was to start a company, a little bit like a venture and incubator firm. And so the idea was to start companies in quantum. And kind of long story short, it became really, really clear that the need for post-quantum cybersecurity, so meaning preventing against these advancing quantum risks, was the now application. So that became incredibly apparent through our growing expertise in quantum. And so we dove in, we took on this space, and QuSecure was born. So what QuSecure does is we develop software-specific or software-only solutions to protect all data, whether it be in transit, at rest, et cetera, from these incoming quantum attacks, but as well as these existing hacks. So the things that you read about in the news, the things that are very existential risks for data, we protect against those as well as the incoming quantum threats.
Yeah, that sounds good. So what I do at Cryptography is we help companies with use cases in quantum, and then on the other side, we try to help them figure out like what they need to do for this apocalypse that's coming. So we don't cover that too often on the podcast, but I figured it was time for another post-apocalyptic episode here. So so here we go. Yeah, just in time for the holidays, right? Yeah. So did you want to maybe give us a little overview of like post-quantum cryptography basics? I mean, people are usually confused by this. Obviously, it doesn't mean cryptography being generated by a quantum computer. So if you just want to, like, for those who don't know, maybe summarize that.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar, but we know that quantum computers are going to disrupt and advance a lot of technology. One of the things that we know for sure is that an algorithm exists called Shor's algorithm, and that is going to devastate public key cryptography as we know it. There's a number of other things that are at play, Grovers, et cetera, that quantum is also set to disrupt. But the key thing is that it's a given now that thanks to Shor's algorithm and the processing capabilities of quantum, it's a ticking time bomb. So the cryptography that we use today is based on prime number factorization, and that will be broken. And so post-quantum cryptography is a new class of cryptography that protects against, again, existing threats, existing computational threats, as well as what is coming down the pipe when it comes to quantum computing.
Yeah, and I have a feeling in a little while when we talk about some of your products, we'll be getting into, I guess, which of the post-quantum safe ciphers are in use and all that good stuff. We'll get there. And the reason people need to start worrying about this now is obviously information is being gathered and saved in hopes that one day it can be reversed. I know there was just a Booz Allen report published. I don't know if you saw this, and they were speculating on, China is gathering information. And I'd like to add,
Exactly.
yeah, I think everyone is. I think the U.S. is. I think every country is gathering information. That's the whole
So
point. They're hoping.
exactly. Yeah, that's typically the aha moment with a lot of our clients and the people that we talk to is, kind of the natural response to this as well. It may be, 5, 10 years out where a quantum computer has, they estimate about 4,000 error corrected qubits to break something like RSA 2048. So while that may be several years out, the big problem is this store now, decrypt later, where if you have sensitive data that has a shelf life, uh, of 5 or more years, then that needs to be encrypted basically yesterday in a way that will prevent against it being harvested now and then later decrypted with a quantum computer. So anything, social security numbers, bank account information, health data, etc., that very much needs to be protected immediately.
Yeah, the lifetime of healthcare data is a lifetime, basically. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it tends to linger. Um, so, uh, so what do you talk to customers about when it comes to crypto agility? That's like a big thing I like to push customers to understand. So I don't know if maybe Greg, did you want to talk a little bit about crypto agility and this idea of how important it is?
I'd love to. I'd love to. I think so there's let's start with the post quantum crypto. There are a set of algorithms that are being competed in driven by NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, and there will be a down select of what is deemed the favorite algorithm and all that stuff. Saber, Kyber, a couple others. So we're implementing all of them right now.
Okay.
The crypto agility, though, let's talk about what that's really about. We've got a whole bunch of folks like my parents and stuff. They're still running on Windows 95. They're not ready to upgrade. They're never going to upgrade, and we need to be able to roll out the upgrade for quantum proof around the planet. We need to be able to do it in any company, any market, and it's got to be done in a way that you don't force a big bang upgrade like you did with year 2K. When Y2K came around, when that moment went by, it was all of a sudden the next century. And with crypto agility, we want to be able to bring the most critical communications, the most critical assets forward to post quantum, and then be able to go clean up the rest. And that means that some of the machines, like my parents with the Windows 95, are still going to be maybe running on TLS 1.3 for a few more years, and they can be managed and kind of sequestered. So I think the real key challenge on crypto agility is managing and forcing the upgrade as the attacks are put into place. That's the piece that I think often is missed. Otherwise, really it all is backward compatibility. I think another key point here is that you made a reference to it a few minutes ago. You don't need quantum hardware. You don't need a quantum computer to protect against the quantum attack. Quantum attack is going to be hidden out of our view. It's going to be using hardware that may exist today in some government space somewhere, we don't know, but it'll get pretty commoditized in maybe 5 to 10 years. The quantum attacks will be strong enough to break our current crypto in 2 to 3, but they'll probably be able to sell it to you in a small chip that's cheap and commodity in a few years. And so, of course, at that point, the bandits and the thieves and the everybody else that wants to steal money are going to get a hold of that, and they're going to come after all of our communications and our encrypted data, and they'll be decrypting everything they've been able to collect. So I look at that agility as a way of getting that rollout done in a way, in a managed and a safe way, a way that doesn't kind of break down the whole system. That's really the key there.
Yeah, because a lot of companies, they'll write code and crypto's like really in there. It's buried. It's hard coded. You can't abstract it out. You can't easily swap it. So we want to move them away from that kind of practice. Also, they'll use some third party, not like you guys, but a third party who doesn't care about agility, and then they're locked into something they don't understand. And then when these machines appear, what are they going to do?
We know what kind of a difficulty an upgrade cycle is. I mean, we're now at the best possible upgrade cycles we've ever been at with our mobile devices. You get a new Android build or a new iOS build, and it undercuts a whole ton of applications, and the applications all there's this huge cascade of updates so you can make sure your applications still work. That's a remarkably fast system compared to where we were a few years ago. A lot of the machines we have to deal with were built back then or before that. I mean, you think about avionics platforms, you think about servers and mainframes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, all that stuff that's there. I'm sure our banking system has tons of old, God forbid, COBOL running and existing systems that have to be addressed. So it gives us the chance to do that. It also gives us a chance to segment the parts of the network. Maybe everything outbound, in the public internet is quantum proof, but we're able to run some private subnets inside that don't necessarily have to be, and that enables a phased approach. So it's going to be a little bit of an uncomfortable upgrade. Let's put it that way. But we've got time. Agility gives us time.
Yeah, those are good points. Sometimes you have to understand your data flows and which ones are really vulnerable and which ones maybe aren't as critical. And it's scary what's out there, right? Especially with government machines. Who knows? Some of them could be positively ancient. There are satellites in space that are just going to be, chunks of useless metal pretty soon.
That's a real tough problem to upgrade that one.
Yeah.
And you watch the battle back and forth of who's declaring quantum supremacy, and China is really killing it. Some of the photonic work that they're doing, which is finally starts to make it readily understandable to me. They're taking this gigantic optical table, which is, maybe it looks like in the pictures, it's like 6 feet by 6 feet. And they're putting 150 elements on it, and they're shooting the photons through splitters and combiners and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they code it. And that thing is at 53 qubits or 47 qubits or something.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And I can see that thing. It's not superconducting. I can understand it. I was like, okay, putting that on a chip in MEMS, that's direct line of sight to a commercial product.
Yeah, and then there's the great unknown too. With anything photonic, that seems to be the path towards a interconnected quantum computer system. So who knows, right? If we get interconnect right, you won't need 4,000 quality qubits in a machine. You'll need, 1,000, and then you'll just chain 4 of them together, and all of a sudden, overnight, you go from 1,000 to a RSA slicing and dicing machine. So that's why we can never give a clear timeline. Like if you do that whole Moscow's theorem approach, where like how long's the shelf life, what's your time needed to swap out crypto, and then you figure out how long before a machine comes along. We don't know. It could be a very small. I suspect we've already blown it with Moscow's theorem. I think most companies find that they're behind.
Yeah,
I think we're late.
And to illustrate Moscow's theorem, it's kind of the combination of what's your shelf life and how long is it going to take for you to do this upgrade, and you start thinking about it as a company or an organization that has the sensitive data, and you start to kind of really realize, hey, this is bad. And I just heard Moscow speak at a group that I was part of, and he said, so they're releasing their study this year. They release the report annually, and this is the first year where the experts are really starting to put aggressive timeframes on when they think these quantum computers will be ready. So we're at a bit of an inflection point where we don't really have any more time.
Yeah, I think we've already blown it. So it's time for folks to just start doing damage control here. Just quickly identify the things that need to be protected. What's your Coca-Cola secret recipe that you're trying to protect? Try and figure that out and start looking at other hybrid solutions even in the short term. And of course, your team has solutions already now. Like you mentioned, you have all the ciphers in there. So that way, I guess you can kind of whittle down, take that approach of chopping out the ones that don't make the final cut for whatever reason. Okay. So I guess let's dive into the two main ones. So I guess there's a post-quantum network and a post-quantum data at rest approach. So if you wanted to maybe cover those.
Sure. There are a couple of key requirements that you need to meet. You need a post-quantum algorithm. That's essential, and that's where NIST is the place to go for that. You also need a post-quantum key. We use PN generators, pseudorandom number generators, and they are not random. They are pseudorandom, and these are the foundation of nearly all of our digital random number generators. Often they're based off the system clock. There are all kinds of attacks that you can apply. The great thing about quantum computers is that they are extremely good at correlating. They can formulate pretty much any combination in an instant, and that's what makes them so profoundly powerful. That's why the time of decrypt of a current asymmetric session, which is thousands of years for our computing, will be 10 seconds ish kind of thing in the quantum domain. So you need a key that is really, really, really deeply random. And the third thing is, in order for the kind of belt and suspenders approach of safety, you need to make sure you're rotating that key. We don't typically rotate keys in our sessions, in our file storage, anything like that. So the idea is that we use this in World War II. We would look at the messages that were coming from the Germans, and we would look for the tail on the message. The tail on the message was always the same. It was always Heil Hitler. And that gave us some known text. And since the same key was used, we would start decrypting there. And it's a wonderful study to look at that stuff. But you'd find out that they would use that relatively dumb thing that happened. And because the key was the same, they could actually end up being able to crack the whole message.
Yeah, one-time pad should really be used one time, because if it's not, then it's
exactly. Yeah. And what's better than a one-time pad is a rotating one-time pad.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what the kind of thing we need to do. Mm-hmm. So quantum-proof keys are basically one-time pad keys, and so we have a quantum source. It's there are a couple of them in the market. We're actually using a couple of them for some supply redundancy. They are photonic devices that do some pretty fancy physics to come up with highly random numbers, and numbers that are not in a pseudo mode at all. We then have a protocol which essentially looks a lot like TLS, basically drops in place of OpenSSL or something, and that will and some reference code. And what that does is handles communicating to and from the server that's providing the keys. Everything we do is over the quantum channel. So we communicate with clients over the quantum channel. The clients set up sessions between themselves over a quantum channel. And then when it comes time to file, to encrypting data at rest, any entity can say, okay, I need to encrypt some data at rest, and they get a key, and they start rotating through the keys to as they encrypt, depending on the file size and we also randomly shift keys, because if you let the enemy know when you're rotating keys, then they'll use that information. So you do it based off of a quantum random number, not off of a non-quantum random number. So the real trick is to avoid the dilution of that randomness, and get those keys deployed. So that's the initial product of the system, is to deliver that capability. It should replace that padlock on your browser that's up in the upper corner, and will give you that post-quantum proof. And the other, I guess, another key part of it is the ability to control the crypto agility. So you should have an administrator. You're talking to your bank. Your bank should be able to say, we're watching all the quantum attack, and you need to upgrade within 3 weeks, and now within 2 weeks, and now within 1 week. And then once you don't upgrade your stuff to the post-quantum capability, they say, sorry, you're going to have to call on the phone if you want to move any money from now on, because we can't count on your system to be to deliver the proper security. So they essentially can manage off the crypto agility. That's the main value of crypto agility, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you can't count on every single packet having already been gathered. I mean, that is a little unreasonable to expect. So when you reach the point where the threat is real, at that point, come on, we really do have to be, doing due diligence.
And there's an important message. There's a real important message about all the data that's already been gathered. Whatever you got out there, you better, if it's truly important for control, i.e. a password, you better change it, and you better get a good quantum-proof password. That's also going to be an interesting space. But the other stuff, good luck. If you ever thought your social security number was safe, you should probably check again. And hopefully, them knowing your financial balances is from whatever year they collected your data isn't that big a deal, but there's going to be a lot of disclosure that's going to go on without us knowing it.
Yeah, because even data at rest is not safe if you've been transmitting it over all these means in the past. So good point. You should be changing those keys, especially if it's for a data at rest solution. This is not like...
And actually changing those keys is critical, especially when you consider cloud and the cloudification of the world, where all that stuff is out there, and it's easier to gather than if it's sitting on your phone and your phone never actually leaves your hands.
Yeah.
But things like that. It's an important
the cloudification. Yeah, I know it's a bit of doom and gloom, right? And it's pretty. The outlook is bleak, and that's kind of why we came into this space, and is what we designed is very much designed with kind of the real world in mind, right? It can be scary to think about these upgrades. It can be hard to sometimes consider what it takes. And so everything that we built is really it might sound complicated, but it's designed to make this upgrade accessible and easy, and to kind of bring the enterprise or bring the government into full protection in a secure and safe way.
Make it straightforward and mostly so that we mitigate the risk and the anxiety for people. Just get them protected, and
Exactly.
It's that hard. That's why we keep talking about things like deployability and what crypto agility is really for. It's about getting folks converted in a way that they don't have to sweat about it. The IT person who's running the organization doesn't have to sweat about it, and everybody can just say, "Okay, we got it covered," and that's it.
So this isn't. Yeah, this isn't like hybrid TLS then, right? It's not like you're doing ECDSA plus Kyber or something. This is just purely replacing all that and creating a new plugin for PKI, right?
Because you're going to run in. Well, the thing that worries me the most, and this is where we're going to be doing a lot of intelligence gathering on it, a lot of watching of the market, a lot of updating product in the future, is what is the attack we don't yet understand. And we think that the Kyber Saber suite are going to be fine. But every year, there are going to be a whole new set of quantum-enabled attacks that are going to come out. And the question is, what are they going to be on that year? Are they going to be on, looking at our records and being able to figure out our future passwords based off of our last ones, and the ones they've already been able to collect and decrypt? Are they going to be, on biometrics? So there's so many opportunities. So my belief is the hybrid is, I want to be careful here. It's a nice try, but I believe that it'll probably be vulnerable to being kicked over within a short period of time.
Yeah, it seems like a stopgap. I mean, it's sort of like a better than nothing approach.
Nothing in the attack world is ever safe. You build it strong, and then you monitor the living bejesus out of it. And when you get any kind of an indicator of something abnormal, you dive in as deep as you can, and you figure out how to turn on countermeasures and get that thing updated so you don't have those issues. It takes constant. It takes an army to fight an army.
While we're still in the network one, so just to help the listeners visualize how it looks. So you would set this up, I guess, internally in an organization, right? The goal here wouldn't be to have everyone have this on their browser and just go to visit websites. It would be organization based right now. Is that the approach?
Well, it really, we're working the deployment model. We're certainly interested in organizations. We've had, financial organizations, government, lots and lots of different parties come to us and say, I need you to take care of my business operations, whatever form that they take. Specifically, let's pick out your bank or your broker. They want to make sure that it's quantum proof in the connection between your browser and their stuff. So they're gonna put the servers where they're accessible and probably managed in their network. And then the clients, they're going to push out client updates. Now you only need to get the client update once. So you'll drop into your favorite browser. It'll pick up the PostQuantum client, and then that padlock in the browser corner is going to end up being a PostQuantum thing, negotiating with the server or whatever website you're going to. So that's the model. We also are migrating towards cloud. There are many opportunities for this to be deployed by cloud providers and maybe your local ISP, maybe some other entity, because you're going to end up picking up different keys from different places for different purposes, and that should all be seamless in the system.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's really what we want. We want something math-based, easy to plug right into existing. We don't want people to have special browsers they have to download or anything like that, or else you won't have adoption. You won't have mass adoption.
Adoption is the number one thing, because people are typically afraid of crypto. They're afraid of security problems. They imagine the worst. They deal with all that anxiety. It tends to stall people because they're not exactly sure what is really good, where the promises are made. And then you end up having these issues of the technical complexity. So we really are going to publish a lot of transparency about our vulnerabilities, and make sure that we are we're going to attack the heck out of it, and then make sure that the deployment is trivially easy, that you don't need to have some one thing operating. We really want a mesh of everything running together, so that no matter where you are, whatever's going on, you're near a key server, and that key server can give you the keys you need and work through to get you to whatever site you need. So
sounds good.
And that could be between two devices on their own. So that actually is how the file works. The file encryption, because when file encryption is going on, whether it's a database or a file on your personal device or whatever else, it's just going to go ahead and grab a key and go ahead and do the encryption. Then you'll have a opportunity to go back and retrieve the key from the key management system that it's integrated with, and that key will be your ticket. And the nice thing is you can manage those keys. You can shut down access to them. You can do all kinds of safety things if you're afraid you're under attack. So,
or if you find out that one of the ciphers needs to be replaced, right? You can just quickly stop the use of one and switch over,
and then come back and re-encrypt. Periodic re-encryption is not a bad idea. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about it throughout, but the idea of getting to crypto agility goes beyond quantum threats, goes beyond anything else. It's this place where we all need to get to, and it's a very cool kind of concept and upgrade that does protect us from a lot of these things that we know and don't know.
Sounds great. So you want to talk a little bit about the data at rest work that you're doing?
Well, sure. The data at rest is taking the very same keying system and the very same algorithms and just using it, instead of having setting up a connection point to point, all it is just taking the file locally and encrypting it. And, in the case of servers and bank records and health records and all that kind of stuff, it's we're definitely going to be working with those IT teams to get that capability tucked into their database structures. And it's once again still pretty straightforward. There's a pile of data, small, big, whatever. We can encrypt it, put a quantum key on it, and then what's really nice is we start to see individual key management. Individual key for a specific piece of information or a specific patient or a specific customer or something like that. So it actually allows you to break up the honeypot. As it is today, a lot of things, you break in. If you can get your way in, you get into the entire store. And we really, between the rotation of keys within one encryption operation, if the file's long, there may be multiple keys encrypting it, to new keys for different operations on different pieces of data. It really annoys the heck out of the attackers, and that's our business.
Yeah, and people don't do due diligence currently. So I can imagine that as we move to PostQuantum, people aren't going to be rotating keys on their own and things like that. So you're automating it to make the policy go from paper to zeros and ones as it is, right?
Exactly. That is, it's just got to be friction-free and easy to use. That's it.
Yeah. Because otherwise we see it all fall apart. It becomes a huge gap when no one actually pushes the buttons to do it. So
I know my mom and dad have to do it, and they're quite senior, and they're not going to quite understand or have the initiative to do this on a digital system. They're not quite digitally oriented people. So exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned, I've read a few times, you talk about zero trust and how this. Are you talking about like implementing this with other zero trust solutions that are already in place at a customer, or do you have some kind of like extra AI that you're providing for some kind of like control of who accesses what? Is there anything like that going on? Or
wow, that's a complicated question. There's such a zero trust as initially published is such an
old term.
Concept.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic concept. But the way we operate our digital systems, you still need a root of trust in all your endpoints. Because if you can't get a root of trust, then how do you possibly authenticate? None of the systems, well, sorry, I shouldn't say none, but a very few of the systems, and pretty much zero of the commercial systems that we have today, can permit you to run code securely on an untrusted platform. And that's a foundational premise for zero trust. So let me step away from that question. Let me head towards the question. We're definitely working with integration with identity and access management. Specifically, how do I know that you are the one asking for your key for that file? Something like that, so you can decrypt it. So want to make sure that is very strong. And so there will be a set of solutions offered. The fact there is that it's a wide market. Everybody loves their own choice. Nobody wants to be told you have to switch. So that's going to be an integration. And that integration is, right on the front of our priority list, getting it seamless and smooth. That's not exactly the answer to the zero trust. There's also a whole bunch of stuff about trusting platforms, and there continue to be needs to make sure platforms are quantum proof from attack, from, the root of trust is solid. I don't think the current HSM market is well versed to protect against quantum attack. And I think, I've done a lot of attack in my life, and the first thing I'm going to do is go after the platform or go after the credentials to get onto it. They're super easy. So, that's if I can't skim the stuff off by passive measures like gathering a file or gathering a communication. So I think that's the kind of stuff that needs to be addressed. We're certainly looking around at that space, and we're also seeing not much action in it. That's the territory for us to be figuring out how to solve together.
Yeah, and I guess I kind of want to bring this back to something Rebecca brought up earlier. So you were interested in AI, right? And how quantum is going to influence that. Do you see any use of quantum machine learning at your company? Do you see any way to apply it to any of these problems? For example, with zero trust, some of the more interesting approaches use some kind of machine learning to understand how a network behaves, what's an anomaly, So I don't know if you have any thoughts to how, because I know you're already using quantum for random number generation. So would there be some other kind of quantum usage to defend, instead of just be the attacker?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've been doing a good amount on the sort of, we're building the protective stuff, and we're also doing a lot of research and investigation into the, what can we do to accelerate or understand what an accelerated hack would look like. So we've done some research with Harrisburg University. I think we're publishing findings sometime soon on that, so keep an eye out. It's really interesting. I mean, we've played around with GANs. When it comes to QML, and this is stuff that I'm super interested in. You can look at things like Grovers. You can look at different stuff that's down the pipe. There's some theoretical things that you can do. We're still, frankly, just a little far away from that, but it's a very active area of research and from our side, and I think the answer is yes. What is coming down the pipe is going to be brutal, and it's going to be enhanced by quantum QML.
AI is about pattern matching, and quantum is too. And so when quantum and AI go together, we are in for a world of hurt. It's going to be applied to, I'm sure that they'll have psychiatric typers and running in all of our traffic lights and phones and all that other kind of stuff, because it's going to be that easy. They'll be able to look at that and say, well, you had a little tone of voice different last Tuesday at 2:30. Someone tells me you're depressed, or whatever it's going to be. The power of data analytics is just overwhelming to humanity. We just, A, don't understand it. And, B, we really don't, because we don't really have a way to understand its immensity. We have a very hard time protecting against it. And quantum is just going to kick that into hyper mode.
Absolutely. I'm part of a group that's authoring some governance guidelines for quantum computing with the World Economic Forum. And so I helped author specifically the privacy section, and some of the things that some of the things when it comes to just understanding, like Greg's saying, it's all pattern recognition, right? So behaviors, everything from looking at these pseudo-random numbers that are generally used and figuring out what patterns are used to generate these, because everything's deterministic when you're using a computer to generate them, to behaviors on the network, to you can even use it for potentially social engineering in a very sophisticated way. So there's a lot that we don't know. There's some things that we can extrapolate out for, but yeah, we're very actively on the research side poking at it as well.
Yeah, because I think QML is going to have a huge impact on security in general. I think it will. Anything you see being done now with smart networks and things like that, I have a feeling they're going to be kind of revolutionized one day. If you can have access to the machines, of course. Right now, there's 36 quantum computers, and you can get them for a few minutes a week. So I don't know if they're really going to revolutionize the network just yet, but give it time.
Give it a couple of years.
Yeah.
About half a decade, we'll be seeing things that are dime a dozen.
But it is exciting to see what you're already working on because, these are the things we need implemented for reality right now, not just theoretically. So, I think people should definitely take a look at this. And in fact, I might do the same. I might take a deeper look at some of this stuff too.
Then change your path.
Yeah. It's all about, like I said, helping customers get to this crypto agile place sooner. So this is some pretty impressive stuff. So thank you both very much for joining me.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Konstantinos. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now it's time for Coherence, the Quantum Executive Summary, where I take a moment to highlight some of the business impacts we discussed today, in case things got too nerdy at times. Let's recap. Crypto agility measures a company's ability to enable rapid adaptations to cryptography. This includes using new cryptographic primitives and algorithms without making disruptive changes to a system's infrastructure. Every company will need to achieve this bragging right as soon as possible. Quantum computers capable of cracking 2048-bit RSA and other implementations could be here as soon as 3 to 5 years, depending on technologies such as interconnect, which could combine quantum computers to get us to 4,000 error-corrected qubits sooner than later. Companies need to audit where they are on the path to crypto agility and should start taking actions now to close any gaps. My team at Protiviti helps companies identify how crypto agile they are. QuSecure is one of the companies providing products that can help you close discovered gaps. They use PostQuantum secure ciphers that are NIST finalists in solutions that work today. QuSecure offers quantum key management, which uses quantum random number generation to create strong security keys. Classical computers have known weaknesses in creating random numbers, after all. The vendor also offers PostQuantum data at rest, which defines and enforces how your data are protected. Turning policies into actions has been an issue for many organizations in general. Now we can solve this issue with an added healthy dose of PostQuantum ciphers. That does it for this episode. Thanks to Rebecca Krauthamer and Greg Bullard for joining to discuss crypto agility and QSecure's offerings. This is our last episode of 2021. We'll be back on our regular schedule in January. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for making this a great first year. Happy holidays! If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to Protiviti's The Post-Quantum World and maybe leave a review to help others find us. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ConstantHacker. That's Constant with a K, Hacker. You'll find links there to what we're doing in quantum computing services at Protiviti. You can also DM me questions or suggestions for what you'd like to hear on the show. For more information on our quantum services, check out Protiviti.com or follow Protiviti Tech on Twitter and LinkedIn. Until next time, be kind and stay quantum curious.